Welcome to the Razors Inc. podcast with your host, Jonathan Farini. If you've spent any amount of time with this podcast, then you know that as a writer, Jonathan has a particular affinity for mysteries and the men and women who solve them, detectives, going all the way back to Sherlock Holmes, of whom it was said that among his greatest talents was noticing things that no one else can. And while detectives have been portrayed on the small screen for decades, some of the most memorable ones became that way not because of their ruthlessness or toughness, but rather everything but. So pour yourself a drink, pull up a chair, and hear Jonathan's take on movies, television, and today, a look back at TV detectives from arguably their golden age. Here's your host, Jonathan Farini.
It's the 70s, and you're a television producer with an idea for a detective show. The 70s were marked by tough times, with Nixon resigning, Vietnam ending, Gerald Ford failing to battle wicked inflation, gas shortages, and Jimmy Carter's thermostat policies, which froze your ass off or boiled you to death, and a failed American hostage rescue attempt in Iran. Ask your parents or grandparents about it. It was a great time for music with disco, Motown, funk, soul, R&B, and great rock and roll. The movies had been reinvented by great new director-writers, and if you were a teenager not living in poverty, not a bad time to be young. Enough history, let's talk network television. Imagine you're a television producer. Only 3 networks, and television was received in homes for free via rooftop antennas and or rabbit ears. We didn't have home VCR, nor did any of my friends, so for most of America it meant huddling around the TV and watching your favorite show at the appointed time or missing it. Selling ad time was the way networks made money, so they were all looking for programming, which would attract loyal eyeballs every week. You're a network television producer, and those like before you rely on tired old genres like detective shows. But it's the 70s, and super slick detectives driving cool cars with early car phones, sipping martinis, and wearing expensive shoes doesn't fit the 70s. You discover the 70s are ripe for the anti-hero, the antithesis of Peter Gunn and Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. in 77 Sunset Strip, to name just 2.
77 Sunset Strip,
starring Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.
77.
You're likely taking your lead from 70s movies, which were scoring big with anti-hero character-driven movies. Your formula is escapism from a disastrous decade, and your protagonist must relate to the 70s eyeballs because misery loves company. You pitch the following 3 concepts. First, a lovable loser, paroled convict, who lives in a rusted-out tin can of a mobile home with his father in a parking lot in Malibu. Second, you pitch a short, portly Epicurean, former cop turned PI, who lives in a penthouse atop a landmark Hollywood Sunset Boulevard nouveau building named the Sunset Tower. Third, you pitch a grandfatherly, ah-shucks country-style PI who is razor-sharp, performs forensics inside his own lab, and only pulls his gun when absolutely necessary. What type of reception would you receive from the network brass? Hint, it's about casting and track record. The first series mentioned, The Rockford Files, was sold because of the star power of James Garner, who played Brett Maverick in the 50s and leading man in The Great Escape and Grand Prix in the 60s, to name a few. In the 70s, James Garner was middle-aged, a little heavier, and brought a screen presence and understanding of the lovable loser, James Rockford, which became a hit show running from 1974 to 1980, and arguably the actor's greatest acting achievement. The Rockford Files scripts revolve around Jim taking on small change cases and oftentimes getting screwed on the payment while getting beat up and chased. Each episode began with the image of Rockford's answering machine.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
Jim, it's Shirley at the cleaners. You know that brown jacket? The one I said looked so great on you? Your favorite? We lost it.
It was a brilliant and humorous device that invited the viewer to live the quirky, down-on-his-luck world of Jim Rockford. One of the principal writers and story editor, David Chase, along with Stephen Cannell, surrounded Rockford with a casting director's brilliant ensemble cast. In about 30 years, David Chase would bring us The Sopranos, lesson for budding writers. The episodes weren't story-driven, but character-driven, I contend. Here's the cast, and you'll understand what I'm speaking about. Noah Barry played Jim's dad, Rocky.
Do you mind? I thought we came to an understanding about you reading over my shoulder when I was 13 and failing algebra.
She's a PhD, huh? Well, ain't you gonna phone her?
No,
Well, why are you looking in the phone book then?
just idle curiosity.
An idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Am I in a time warp or something? I don't believe this. I haven't heard dialogue like this since I was in short pants.
You said you was interested in it.
I said she seemed to have a good sense of humor.
Ah, you mean she laughed at one of your jokes, huh?
Do you mind if I finished reading the newspaper, Dad?
Look, with this PhD and all like that, it sounds to me like she's the kind of girl you should call up. I do not want you making the same mistake you made with Susie Turley.
Sue Turley, what a mistake. Sue Turley now weighs 300 pounds, is good for a fifth of vodka a day.
Little Susie? Well, I think you ought to call this girl anyway.
A kind-hearted retired truck driver who wants Jim out of the PI business and into a truck. He lives in the trailer with Jim and takes care of him. Stuart Margolin plays Angel, a former cellie of Jim's who is always working on a con. Brilliant character. Singer-songwriter Isaac Hayes, yeah, Shaft. Isaac Hayes playing former convict Gandalf Fitch, who refers to Jim as Rockfish, to Jim's consternation.
Remember me, Rockfish?
Yeah, the night bears are getting down to only 1 or 2 a month, and the name is not Rockfish.
I came to collect.
I figured that.
It happens to be a bona fide debt, and you're 5 years past due. Now, what happened to that bread you supposed to deposit in my account in the inmates' trust fund?
I kept meaning to send it.
$1,500 is what you owe, and $1,500 I'm gonna collect.
Come on, Gandy, do I look like I got $1,500, huh? Maybe I can turn $250 on my TV set. If I get $300 out of the stereo, I've got some equity in my car.
Forget the bread. I'm gonna take it out in hide or services. Now, you call it.
Services?
Look, Rockfish, I just did 20 years for a murder that I didn't do. Now, you find out who killed Lila McGee, and you and me are square.
Candy is a big dude solving Jim's problems with his fists. Gretchen Corbett as Elizabeth Beth Davenport, Jim's lawyer and sometimes girlfriend. Bo Hopkins as John Coop Cooper, Jim's disbarred attorney friend. You seeing a trend here? Tom Selleck as Lance White, a successful and glamorous PI.
Due by about a half an hour. It hasn't occurred to you that this is a trap? A trap? Come on, Jim, I doubt that.
Now, I can't explain why you're still walking around. It's not going to last long. You know, you're naive, Lance. You really are. You have to be cynical. You have to question things. You can't take someone named Belle LaBelle on face value. What's her angle? Huh? Whose payroll is she on? You find out the answers to those things, and then you start moving fast and crooked. You go through doorways, sideways, and low, at odd angles. You look for the big lie. Question everything.
I'm going up to Lake Malibu. Why don't you come with me?
They'll kill him.
He's a throwback to the 60s private investigator. Tom Selleck became famous as Thomas Magnum in Magnum P.I., the detective series in the 80s. Dennis Dugan is Richie Brockelman, a young, idealistic, and seemingly naive PI who seeks Jim's help from time to time. Catherine Harold is Dr. Megan Dougherty, a blind psychiatrist who hires Jim. Their relationship eventually blossoms into a romance. Simon Oakland is Vern St. Cloud, a blustery, arrogant, and often untrustworthy fellow PI. Louis Gossett Jr. as, wait for it, Marcus Aurelius Gabby Hayes, an impeccably dressed, chauffeur-driven, boastful PI who is always in on a hustle, usually to Rockford's misfortune. Rita Moreno plays Rita Kapkovic, a call girl.
Rita, honey.
It wasn't no trick, Jimmy. Honest.
Yeah, sure, sweetheart. You ran into a door.
I'm not lying. I got mugged.
You said you were going straight, huh? You said it was a whole new life.
Yeah. Didn't start out too great, did it?
Oh, now, okay, come on.
I shouldn't have come here.
Hey, you should have come here. It's exactly where you should have come, sweetheart.
I never been nothing but trouble for you.
Well, that's a double negative.
What?
That means you haven't been any trouble at all.
And whether Jim and Rita are ever romantically involved beyond their close relationship is unclear. But this writer would have found gold in building a romantic relationship between them. Rita is a multi-dimensional performer and director and was underutilized, in my opinion. Her biography is a must-read, and she recently celebrated her 93rd birthday looking gorgeous. Joe Santos played a police detective named Dennis, who was a friend of Jim's and getting into trouble with his superiors for running plates for Jim and other favors within the department. As a producer, you had a cool Pontiac Firebird. Rockford tear-asses around inside the Firebird like a stuntman, and his dad Rocky has a cool GMC Sierra Classic pickup with a roll bar, two-tone paint, and pinstriping. The series had a great theme song composed by Mike Post and Pete Carpenter and became a best-selling single, hitting the charts and earning an Emmy. The series ran for 6 seasons and 123 episodes on NBC between 1974 and 1980. Garner won an Emmy in 1976. The writers, Stephen Cannell, David Chase, Charles Floyd Johnson, and Meta Rosenberg, won an Emmy in 1977. Rita Moreno won an Emmy in 1978. Stuart Margolin won an Emmy in 1979 and also in 1980. He is a character you have to check out on this series.
Look, why kill us both? Look, just kill one of us. That would be even better, see? You could do Jimmy now, and then I go around and I tell people, well, you don't cheat Chester Sierra, and then later on, if you wanted to scare more people, why, I'd be available for the engagement.
Get him out of here.
Right.
In summary, James Garner's star power got the Rockford Files picked up. Superior writing, brilliant casting, and the lovable loser, Misery Loves Company, resonated with viewers and still does. So, how did a series about a short Epicurean and a senior citizen PI get made? In short, the executive producer was a legend of 60s and 70s television, including The Untouchables, The Fugitive, The FBI, and many, many more. I met him after he sold his production company, and I was just starting film school. He became a mentor and was a very classy man. Cannon aired from 1971 to 1976 on CBS.
Cannon. Starring William Conrad.
William Conrad played the title character, Private Detective Frank Cannon. He got his start playing menacing characters inside noir films, but had a successful director and producer career in the 60s. Cannon was portrayed in the series as a veteran of the Korean War and a former member of the LAPD. He was not only street smart, but also appeared to have a high level of education. He was a widower, having lost his wife and son in a bomb attack while he was on the police force. He was an overweight actor, and the series made frequent mention of his weight. Other characters remarked critically about it, while he himself would joke self-deprecatingly about his girth and great love of food.
Peking duck?
China is in now, you know.
The fan does what?
Ah, it substitutes for the wind. You see, it dries the bird, then the air gets underneath the skin and pulls it away from the body, and it puffs it up. And when you cook it, all the fat goes out, and it's as lean as a mandarin. It's beautiful.
How long do you do that?
Well, I cheat, but about 8 or 9 hours, something like that. There you go.
Cannon was a gourmet cook who enjoyed preparing food for his friends. Despite his large size, he was a man of action with gun in his fists. Like Rockford's Firebird, Carr is a protagonist in Cannon, where the car of choice is a cool Lincoln Continental Mark III and Mark IV with a car phone. That was special in those days, but it had a handset and a coil resembling a vintage phone, and I recall he dialed the operator who made the connection. Unlike Rockford working for scraps, Cannon worked for insurance companies and powerful people who could afford his fee, but ensnared him in devious plot lines. Other than the title role, the series had very few recurring characters. Notable guest stars included Johnny Cash, Mark Hamill, Larry Linville, Sandra Locke, Leslie Nielsen, Nick Nolte, Roy Scheider, and Martin Sheen. Cannon received 3 Emmy Award nominations for Outstanding Drama Series in '73 and for William Conrad as lead actor in a drama series in '73 and '74. Ran for 5 seasons, 122 episodes on CBS, and was produced by QM Productions. Cannon and the series Barnaby Jones, which I will discuss in a minute, were both created by writer Edward Hume, who also created The Streets of San Francisco for QM Productions. Your Grandfather's Detective.
Barnaby Jones, starring Buddy Ebsen, also starring Lee Merriweather.
Barnaby Jones is an American detective television series starring Buddy Ebsen as a formerly retired investigator and Lee Merriweather as his widowed daughter-in-law. Buddy was 64 when this series debuted. He has an extensive filmography, check it out, and it was great that an actor of his age would catch a break like this. I don't think it would happen today. Buddy is best known for playing Jed Clampett in the Beverly Hillbillies, but began his career as a dancer on Broadway and vaudeville in the 30s. It's an athletic feat to watch a man of his height dance as eloquently as Astaire. He successfully segued into acting. So Barnaby runs a private detective firm in Los Angeles. He's an aw-shucks detective with his own forensic lab performing tests.
Wayne Hogan was an important executive. It is not inconceivable he might have taken something of value on a business trip.
You're right, Counselor, excepting that Mr. Plowman has been trying to convince me that Mr. Hogan was not on a business trip that day. I may be mistaken, but do you know Carl Merrick?
I never heard of him.
Has a small trucking and warehouse business in San Diego.
Gentlemen, since you failed to appreciate his cooperation, I'm advising my client to terminate this interview.
The San Diego police have files for a year now on some pretty big rip-offs along the docks. Electrical components and other materials that just happen to coincide rather closely with your inventory pattern, Mr. Plowman.
Miss Corbett said Mr. Hogan bought a lot of that stuff in San Diego.
I told you I don't know any Carl Merrick.
Were we still talking about Carl Merrick, Lieutenant?
I thought I'd moved along to thefts on the docks.
Were you suggesting that there's some connection between the two, Mr. Plowman? Isn't Carl Merrick the man that Hogan went to see in San Diego, carrying the attaché case your client inquired about but doesn't remember? Seems to me my memory would be doing flip-flops, too, if I realized that my vice president was going around carrying $300,000 in cash that wound up missing.
On rare occasions, he'd pull a gun and make a wound shot rather than a kill shot. Like Cannon, he represents insurance companies and wealthy, powerful people, also leading to interesting storylines. I've spoken in other podcasts about opening and closing credits, and the puzzle pieces coming together, forming the opening credits, accompanied by a brilliant musical score by Jerry Goldsmith, puts most films to shame. Barnaby Jones ran for 8 seasons and 178 episodes. Many familiar actors made guest appearances, and others who were newcomers went on to become well known, including Jonathan Banks, Susan Day, Larry Hagman, Ed Harris, Don Johnson, Tommy Lee Jones, Sean Penn, John Ritter, Carl Weathers, and James Wood. Sadly, no Emmy wins for Barnaby Jones, but Lee Merriweather was nominated in 1977 for Outstanding Supporting Actress. These 3 anti-hero series still hold up and are in syndication after 50 years, which speaks for itself. If you were alive during the release, I'll bet you have a soft spot for them in your hearts. And younger people watching them with relatives likely appreciate them as well. If you're not familiar with them, find them on YouTube and watch an episode or 2. I'll bet you'll find something which catches your attention in one or more. If you're a budding writer-producer, these are a must-watch for the development of anti-hero protagonists, casting genius, less violence and more wit, and a time capsule into television history which you may put to good use. Until I see you next time, please leave behind a soft footprint, and class is dismissed.
So while we take nothing away from more modern portrayals of detectives on the big or small screen, all too often today's portrayals focus on being edgy rather than on the charm and intelligence that would allow the fully developed characters to easily disarm the suspects. Besides, Michael Connelly once said, the best crime stories are not about how a detective works on a case, but rather about how a case works on a detective. You've been listening to the Razors Inc. podcast with Jonathan Farini. Be sure to check out Jonathan's collection of fiction at the Jonathan B. Farini Story Collection at jonathanfarini.com. Also, look for Jonathan's latest short story, Final Watch, in which 2 Border Patrol agents on a lonely road one night encounter some unexpected events that defy explanation. Final Watch, published in the latest edition of the Spadina Literary Review. Go to jonathanfarini.com or drop an email to razorsincpodcast@gmail.com.